ontogeny.
Okay, let's see if that did it. Can you see and hear me right now, chat? All right, excellent. Thank you, Lenina and Claire Burr, and welcome everybody back to Paleontologizing. Welcome to Fruita Colorado, and welcome to the workshop at Gaston Design Studios. I'm really excited. I've been very excited for this. Really excited to show you this remarkable facility and to let you meet Rob Gaston. Yeah, first of all, let me introduce myself in case anybody's new here before we go into the workshop. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, and this is a rare half day off for me right now from digging dinosaurs out in eastern Utah. We've come across the state border into Colorado for today, and lucky enough to be able to tour Gaston Design Studios. So here at this facility, you're going to see how we make replicas of fossils for museum displays and for research purposes as well. This is kind of a cornerstone of paleontological research, and Rob Gaston is easily one of the best people in the world at doing this. So I am thrilled to have this opportunity and to be able to show you how all this works. So I'm glad you're here. Welcome. Good stuff. Let's just go ahead and get into there, shall we? Without further ado. I was lucky enough to tour here back in 2014 during the mid-Mesozoic meeting. Rob gave us a tour of the studio, so it was just me and like 40 other paleontologists in here, and it's like, I don't know, it's like Willy Wonka's factory or something. This is just a place of wonders. So again, I am super stoked to be here. Ignore that sign. And here we are. All right. And there's the man himself, Rob Gaston. Yeah.
Hello.
So again, Rob, thank you so much for this opportunity. It is wonderful to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you, and appreciate the interest.
Yeah, so for those of you who may not be familiar with Rob Gaston, you might be familiar with Gastonia, that polacanthine ankylosaur from the Cedar Mountain Formation. It's named after Rob Gaston. So pretty cool to, I don't know, you're in the presence of you know, somebody pretty great here. So I hope you realize that, everybody watching. We've got 156 people watching right now, right at the beginning, and that'll probably peak up to like 500 or something.
Okay.
So,
good.
Anyway, yeah. Rob, how long have you been doing this?
Well, so mentioning Gastonia, that was my segue into paleontology. I've always been interested in, as a kid, you pick up arrowheads and bits of fossil material, but so I've always had an interest in it. But discovering that was my means into this, and that was right around 1990. So I don't really want to do the math, but it adds up to a few years. So yeah.
Awesome. How long have you been here? Is this like your original facility here?
Yes, it is, and it's just kind of grown.
Yeah.
As you can see, it goes from room to room to room and building to building to building. So it's kind of just kind of grown with the demand for and the projects we've had. We just keep adding on.
Definitely. It seems like it's grown since 2014 when I was here with Jim for the Mid-Mesozoic meeting. At least in the sense that there seems to be more stuff in here.
There's more junk piled in the building. So that's
it looks very different in that sense.
Unfortunately, the space is not growing.
Yeah. I remember there's like a gigantic, I think, Deinosuchus skeleton all laid out right here, maybe right where we're standing at that time. Yeah, and that was pretty impressive. Shoot. What have we got right here? Can we take a look at this?
Yes. So we have grand staircase material, ceratopsian, a couple different ceratopsians here.
So these are actual fossils, chat, just so you know.
And they will get molded and cast, and then restored into eventually a skeleton. And so we have Pentaceratops, set of Pentaceratops jaws, ribs from a smaller individual, a horned core and an eye orbit from another Pentaceratops, and then a really nice rostral bone there.
Tip of the beak right here,
A couple of cervical ribs right by that, and then a couple of caudal vertebrae. And so this has been an ongoing project from 3 different bone beds in the grand staircase, and so we're restoring. I think it could probably 2 skulls and 1 skeleton will come out of all this material that we're molding.
Nice. Wow. So when you start off with the original fossils like this, what steps do you have to take in order to be able to get them safe for molding?
Yeah, so it's a long process to take it from, once the museum has done all the prep work, to take it through the molding process and then all the way to a cast. So you can see the white areas on this, and that's a material called carbowax. Carbowax keeps the rubber that's going to be applied to this from getting deep into the cracks, soaking into the bone, and then possibly damaging or breaking the bone when you pull it out. So you want to seal those cracks off. And so that is why that's applied. Once the rubber's pulled off of there, the mold is made, the carbowax will just clean up with just a little easy water cleanup.
Nice.
Bigger areas, I don't see any on these, but
maybe
sometimes
right there, the kind of brownish stuff?
Exactly. Bigger areas, we may need to use some standard modeling clay, to cap some areas that are broken or damaged. That we just don't want the rubber to come in contact with that. And then after this step, these will be clayed up, kind of basically split in half with a clay wall. The silicone rubber will be applied, then a hard backup mold over that. You flip it over and then repeat that process. Another silicone on the other half, another hard backup mold, and then if you've done everything correctly, your mold will open in half, the piece will come out, knock on wood, without being damaged, and then you start the casting process, clean up the mold, and we use a 2-part urethane resin to make the casts.
Nice. Very, very cool. Man, and I'm just marveling at these teeth right now, too. You can see that cutting surface along here.
Yeah, and this jaw is very nice in the sense most of the ceratopsian jaws that we have received, usually the teeth they're fallen out. So this is one of the most complete batteries we've gotten on any jaw.
Just
and that's really cool to see that wear surface on the outside. And they're just constantly erupting from an inward to an outward angle, and then just wearing down, growing, wearing down, growing.
Very cool.
Too bad we can't do that. Put the dentist out of business.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is, the label says new Pentaceratops species. That is pretty exciting.
Yes, exactly. So this will be really nice when it's finished. So after the molding process is done, the casts are made. You can see the back portion of the jaw is missing here. This one's more complete. This one's missing a little bit. It's missing a little bit on this edge, and then of course the tip of the beak. So the next step in this process is we will not do any restoration or any modification on the original bone.
Right.
We'll clean it up, send it back to the museum. Then once we get a really high fidelity cast, from that we'll start using epoxy clays, things like that, to restore what's missing. And so we'll go through that process with the whole skull. And usually with the ceratopsian skulls, given that they're so large, like for instance a skull of this animal would be 7 to 8 feet in length.
Yeah.
And they usually end up in multiple pieces, just like you see the horn core there. And it's a long process. It's like putting together a broken dinner platter. You get all these pieces and get them oriented the same way, and if you're lucky you might get a chunk of the skull that's articulated, but generally the skulls of this size are coming out in pieces. Not true of all, like Cosmoceratops, for instance, from the Grand Staircase. Beautiful complete skull. So it does happen, but it's rare.
Right. Yeah. Very, very cool. Holy cow. And where's this the research cast and then the reconstructed cast, where are these headed afterward? If you could talk about that. Yeah,
well, so the originals will go back to the Denver Museum, and then once we go through the and so that's what I just described as a multi-year process to get these cast board, get the restoration, and then those need to be remolded. So you make the production pieces. So eventually the museum will get a restored version of this that they can put on display to the public. Because the public looks at a lot of these pieces, and I mean they're really not displayable. A paleontologist would know what this is, or what that those are cervical ribs. But if you show those to the people that are not that familiar with paleo, they're going to look at but what is that? It's it's a piece of rock. So the valuable resource that they're getting is something they can show to the public. The public can then see, oh yeah, it's a dinosaur skeleton. And then a lot of times the museums will put some of these elements on display near the skeletons, which is great because then you can tie them in together. Oh see that's the jaw, it's the horn, and so that's really it's a way to tie these pieces in. I think a little more better, make a coherent story if you're not that familiar with skeletal anatomy and paleontology. And so that's what they end up with. That's the motivator for them to send us the pieces.
Yeah, very, very cool. Holy cow. This is really neat, just seeing a new species just casually out here on the table. That's pretty special. Very, very cool. Should we look around a little bit more? And
you want to, we've got...
holy cow. Check out Scutellosaurus here.
Yeah, so this
is incredible, Rob. Holy cow.
Yeah, so this... when was that excavated? In the 70s? About around 1980?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
no, it was in the 70s.
Okay.
Early 70s.
Okay.
Actually.
So this was an animal that was found roughly 40 years ago. Little creature. But what's incredibly important about this animal is that it's one of the earliest armored dinosaurs. And when things are this small, you just don't get them preserved, period, let alone with a nice set of armor. Now, having said that, all the armor that you see, a lot of this was restored, although there were over 100 pieces of armor. So this came from the Navajo Reservation in northern Arizona, and we had most of the internal skeleton for this, so there's not a lot of guesswork in what, the proportions of the animal, what it looks like. What is guesswork is we don't know what the armor looks like. I mean, we don't know the arrangement of it. And these guys probably had really complex alternating rows of armor in different, high-profile armor, low-profile armor, different places on the body. Almost impossible to know what that arrangement was, but we can look at later animals that give us a little bit of a clue, but it's still a guess. And so right now this is our first kind of working model of what we think it may have looked like. I feel confident that it's correct in the sense that it was probably covered with armor, and we know these are a lot of the shapes that it had because they were preserved, they were with the skeleton, but we just don't know exactly, maybe these go further back, maybe they go further forward, maybe on the tail, maybe there's a lot we just don't know about the arrangements.
It's an incredible amount of work that clearly went into this. I mean, I hope you can see, chat, here how each of these osteoderms, these little armor plates on here, are suspended above the rest of the skeleton. It's not like they're actually attached to the bones. Each one of these has got a little bit of wire kind of removing it from the bones a little bit, because those osteoderms were embedded in the skin in life.
Yeah, so exactly. They would have floated in the skin like a crocodile or an alligator.
How long did this take, Rob?
Well, it took longer than it looks, so...
longer than it is.
Probably, and so... we've got to go through all the process of molding, casting, painting. So once everything is quote, done meaning you've got a box of pieces that are all colored and painted and ready to put together, then it's about a week, 6-7 day process, about 3 to 4 solid days just to put the armor on, another 2 or 3 days to put the skeletal elements underneath together. So it's a lot of work. I was just telling everybody that this was actually about the same amount of days as assembling a 22-foot Tyrannosaur skeleton.
Jeez.
So
wow.
That's how time-consuming this gets. Yeah. And what you don't see is all the mistakes in the armor, meaning, oh, this row's a little off, I need to move it. So pulling it all out, moving it a couple, a quarter of an inch or that sort of thing. So you don't see all those, the repositioning errors.
That's infuriating.
Yes.
Yes. You mess up and you go, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you just become resigned to it. But, so you're actually really not seeing the full amount of work that's in something like this. But yeah, a little different scale than what we normally are used to working at. We don't do huge dinosaurs, usually medium size, but this is getting into the small end of what we do, and presents some challenges with molding and casting. Actually, it's usually often easier to cast larger pieces than really small pieces.
Yeah, the little fiddly stuff.
Just you're dealing with resin not wanting to flow into tiny areas and getting air bubbles, and when you do get air bubbles or things like that you need to fix, they're more difficult to fix.
Yeah, totally.
And just it presents its own set of problems doing smaller pieces.
Yeah.
Very Danny, cool. As I've said, we'd like to try to create a fundraiser to get one of these for the St. George Dinosaur Discovery Site, since they have tracks of things like this. They're down there, and they've got teeth and things and the rocks of this age right there at the track site. So this is an element of the fauna for southwestern Utah that we really would like to see on exhibit down there in a big way. And as I said, just a kit where you got to put it together, $6,000. So it's a lot of money, but it is an incredible piece. And we get that for them. And without a nuke going off there, we hope it's there in 100 years. It's a permanent asset to that facility in perpetuity. So when you look at that, it's not an expense of any kind. We just need people to donate money, pull together a kitty to do that.
I think that might be possible. We should talk to Andrew Milner about that. I could help run a fundraiser. I could sell T-shirts or something like that to help raise some money.
Let's do it. I've been totally behind. I've been saying this for a couple of years now. We need one of these in that museum.
All right. What do you think, Chad? Can we help pull that off? I think that might be doable. Yeah. And Dinosaur Dave, this is Scutellosaurus right here from the late Jurassic of Arizona.
Early Jurassic.
Early Jurassic. Sorry, I said late. Early Jurassic. Probably about 190 million years old.
Yeah, about there. 195.
Yeah. And where is this particular cast going, Rob? Where can people see this?
Well, so this will be going in an exhibit we're doing on animal armor. And what I'm really excited about is we will display this with Scelidosaurus, Jurassic animal, maybe slightly later in time. I think that's correct.
Yeah, a little bit later, but very close.
Yeah, almost a contemporary.
A lot bigger though than this guy.
So also a really rare cast, and so we'll be able to display this Kaleidosaurus along with later ankylosaurs and polycanthids in our animal armor exhibit, which will be opening in the Fern Bank in Atlanta the 1st of October.
Very cool.
So it'll be on display there.
That's so soon. Shoot.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Man.
It's too soon.
Anybody near Atlanta, make sure you go to this exhibition. That is going to be really, really special.
Yeah.
This is the best collection of armored dinosaur skeletons you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Are you displaying Gastonia?
Explanation
yes, 2
point.
Gastonias
Nice.
with Utah Raptor.
Discovered the Gastonia.
Yeah. Again, if anybody's just joining us, I'm here at Rob Gaston's workshop. There's Rob Gaston right there, and he discovered Gastonia, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's called Gastonia. It's named after Rob Gaston. So this is his workshop here, and he is one of the best people in the world at, creating fossil replicas like this for museums and other displays around the world. You're in the presence of greatness here, like I just said.
Osaka, Japan. I remember going into this museum. It's like, there's a dinosaur name. There's a dinosaur name. Because, they buy Rob stuff in Japan.
Yeah.
This exhibit, half the stuff in there came out of this shop. So I'm sitting there able to lecture to Chinese, Koreans, this big Asian contingent about Gastonia, Utah Raptor, all these different animals, Valkyrius, they're all there.
Yeah, Japan's a country that is definitely economic necessity for our business.
Yeah.
A huge portion of our work goes to Asia in general, but principally Japan. So they're
very cool.
It seems like every prefecture has a museum over there, and they all have dinosaurs.
Very cool. And so many of those are yours. That's pretty awesome.
Spent a lot of work over.
Yeah. Very cool. So again, if you're in or anywhere near Atlanta, make sure you go there in October. See this exhibit.
January, beginning of January.
Okay. Nice. Very, very cool. Yeah.
And we'll have, besides dinosaurs, we have, we tie the story of armor kind of full circle. We start with insects, then fish, and then dinosaurs. And what's really neat about armor is you could almost say there's only one group of animals that doesn't have armor, and that's flying animals. But that's not entirely true because you have beetles.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes, and
so
even flying animals have armor. Swimming, under the ground.
Yeah.
Every environment has armored animals. Even with beetles now, you have flying animals in the air, flying armor in the air. So it ties that whole thing full circle. Crocodiles, phytosaurs, reptiles, fish, the whole thing. Yeah. But principally the show is centered on ankylosaurs.
Nice.
And their early relatives.
Very, very cool.
It's the biggest collection of ankylosaur skeletons anywhere.
Yeah.
Wow.
I might have to go to Atlanta.
Oh, I'm trying to get him, bring me on as a speaker. I'm a big, ankylosaur. I could do a series of lectures.
Wow, that's awesome. Maybe I could do a stream from there. Shoot, see if I can organize that. It's at the Fern Bank Museum, you said?
Yes, Fern Bank.
Fern Bank Museum, if anybody was wondering. Yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, shoot. What else should we go look at?
You want to look at the down in the other building, the Sarcosuchus?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome.
Go down here.
And just check out this workshop here, everybody.
Yeah, so painting and casts everywhere. So as the casts are poured, we start seam chasing, painting, and so the thing to remember about casts is you get a mold, you pour the liquid in and pop it open. That was quick. It just it's kind of like building a house where the framing goes up in a day, and you say, that house is going to be done in a week.
Yeah.
But then all the labor really starts where you're doing all the seam chasing and filling and little maybe restoring little bits that didn't come out.
I'm very familiar with this from 3D printing. I do a lot of 3D printing at home.
And then the painting is the final step, and then mounting, of course, too.
Can anybody in the chat guess what this critter is right here? Take a look at that long neural spine. We'll get some responses in a minute. But Dinosaur Dave already got it. That's a Spinosaurid, right?
Yeah.
You bet. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very cool. Is that Utah raptor right there? Those big, thick metatarsals?
Allosaurus.
Allosaurus.
Yeah, and that's local. It's my get Corey.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of our deluxe gift shop items.
Nice.
So we do it.
That is gorgeous.
We put it on a nice stand, and so you get the idea here.
How much would that run, if you don't mind me asking?
We get retail about $400 for them.
Really?
They're mounted on a really nice stand.
That is awesome.
The full effect there. But yeah, that's really nice set of material from My Gap Moore out on the Utah Colorado
We
line.
drove right by there on the way over.
Yep.
Yeah, Jim pulled off and he's like, "Yep, I spent I don't know how many years there."
Yeah,
he lived at that site for a while.
Yeah, some really nice stuff has come out of there. Just every once in a while you get some really rare, nicely preserved pieces. So yeah, come on down and we'll. And before we go, there's
look at that.
Yeah,
vertebral columns.
Mastodon.
Holy cow!
Very big mastodon.
Yeah.
From Snowmass.
Look at those neural spines.
We'll be putting that together at some point soon. Some of the ribs. If I can take this down without causing an avalanche. This rib is really neat.
Is the Diabloceratops on top?
Yeah. But check out the pathology.
Whoa, they fused together.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah,
holy cow.
Huge mastodon with really great pathology there. That's complete. There's no restoration on it. That's as found in Snowmass. But
wow, what kind of an injury would cause ribs to fuse like that?
I don't know if that was something that was maybe cancerous or an injury. And in talking with folks that do study this, sometimes it is hard to tell. Yeah. Especially when the bone gets really overgrown, but one of the two, either injury or disease or both.
Very cool.
But yeah, really nice.
Awesome stuff.
So yeah, come on down in the other building and look at some more exhibit pieces. Should the door close behind me? Maybe too much noise for you, but at least it'll give you an idea of what working in the shop is actually like.
For sure.
Yeah. So, again, another piece going in the armor exhibit is Sarcosuchus by artist Gary Staub. And he did a full 30-foot skeleton of this, but we've modified it for our show just to have it coming out of a full water scene. And so we've added some material here to give it the angle we want. And so my wife Elisa, you can swing around there. She's doing some final touch up on the cube before she paints it. But yeah, you can just look what a wonderful job he does on it. No, it's okay.
Wonderful.
We were just saying it gives people a real idea of what it's like to be in here, actually working with all the noise.
Not always a quiet place,
No, it's never a quiet place. Yeah. So.
Wow. This is just so gorgeous.
Yeah.
Look at that. So this is Sarcosuchus imperator from the early Cretaceous of Niger, I want to say?
Yeah.
He lived alongside Suchomimus, Spinosaur.
And I think they find bits and pieces of it across North Africa. I know there's some Moroccan material, so I think it's not too uncommon to find bits of this animal all through that region of Africa.
So did you take the cast skull and then sculpt the flesh on top of it?
Gary would have, yes.
Oh,
exactly.
okay, yeah.
So this is a 1-to-1, and yes, exactly to your point. He takes the cast of the skull and does all the flesh work on it. The beautiful handmade glass eye that he did.
Gorgeous. So lifelike.
Yeah.
And again, this is life size. I want to really hammer that point home for anybody watching. And there've been a number of times that really big crocodilomorphs like this have evolved. Sarcosuchus is just one of them.
Yeah, we have a Deinosuchus skeleton that's almost equal in size. Yeah, it's around 30 feet. Skull's almost the same size. So yeah, really would have been cool to see, you know, envisioning a sandbar with 3 or 4 of these things laying out on it. You know.
Really amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And just the detail on all the scutes and all of the scales on here, it's really exquisite.
Yeah.
What are the teeth made of? And are those painted, or is that just the underlying material there?
So I think what he's doing here is a similar technique to one we used, where envision the mold being open with the tooth cavities in it, and so he's probably pouring a different type of resin into the teeth to give them a little waxy, translucent look to make them more authentic looking, and then going back with a different resin, maybe something structurally harder to do the body. And I think you can sort of see that in this transition zone.
I was wondering about that.
And so when these are painted, it just helps you, achieve more depth. You know, when you see a tooth that's got that beautiful kind of ivory look, and so when you do this, it just makes it that much easier to achieve that look. So yeah, I think he's just used a slightly different resin for that.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. And it's going to look even more incredible when it's fully painted.
Yeah.
Even just ghostly white, it looks amazing, but
yeah, so we
lifelike coloration, this is going to be something else.
Yeah, we've got just a couple months to get everything ready to go down to Atlanta. And I don't know if I had mentioned a minute ago, we have the fossil skull and neck to go, right alongside that.
Nice.
With all the
so cool.
armor on it and that sort of thing.
So you've got the actual, fossil specimen or a cast of it, and then you've got the interpretation right here, too. That is a cool way to build an exhibit. I'm a big fan of that method. That's really, really neat. Wow.
So this building is basically where we do all our metal work. For the other building, the casting, molding, painting. Down here we're doing the assembly, metal work, things like that. You can see some skeleton bodies going together.
Yeah, Utah Raptor.
This is Utah Raptor, yes. Yeah. And so all of that work is done down here.
Nice.
And this is also going in the exhibit with a couple of Gastonias, an adult and a juvenile Gastonia.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, and more parts and pieces back there waiting to be assembled. Grand Staircase Ceratopsians, Tratophonius.
Nice. And that Tyrannosaurus still over there is so cool.
Yeah, all of those pieces are, at some point will be reconstructed, or I should say assembled into skeletons. Pelvis, sloth,
big
pelvis.
Old Ceratopsian. Who is this?
That is Cosmoceratops.
Nice.
And this is
big mammoth or something?
Ground sloth, the Rematherium.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Whose skull, I believe, is right here.
Yeah, right behind you.
Yeah. A Rematherium, you said?
Yeah, from around Daytona Beach, Florida.
Very cool.
Yeah, the Royal Ontario Museum excavated, I think, a pit of about almost a dozen individuals some decades ago, and this was one of the ones that came out of there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. And then Diabloceratops here too.
Yeah.
We've been Don DeBlue on our field crew discovered Diabloceratops.
Yeah, another grand staircase piece.
Just gorgeous. Yeah. I stayed at Don's place before we came out to the field briefly, and he's got this above his fireplace. Yeah. His wife got it for him, I think, as an anniversary present. Yeah. I'm not going to ask how much that cost, but that's it is beautiful.
Well, I'm glad he's finally got one. I kind of felt bad all the years of having one sitting down here. It's like, waiting for him to get one so he can have one there. But this skull was really, really, really nice. I mean, it was almost completely intact with maybe 20% of it sheared off here, and then missing the jaw. But everything you see here is all original fossil, nice. with the exception of the jaw. So really exciting when you get a skull that big and it's almost totally complete.
That is amazing. Yeah.
And really, if you have one half of the skull or the other half, meaning the left or right half.
You can just kind of mirror it.
You have the entire skull.
Yeah.
So they don't really get hung up on, well, this was missing. Well, we know exactly what it looks like. It's only a problem when you're missing a front half or a back half.
Yeah. So how do you do that when you're actually doing physical molding and casting? Because with 3D printing, you can just, with a few clicks, mirror the thing in the computer. How do you do that with this?
Well, and that's an advantage to 3D printing.
Yeah.
We're doing this the old-fashioned way of making the original cast of the piece, and then taking that really nice high-fidelity master cast, doing the reconstruction work, and then remolding it.
Nice.
So it's a little bit more of a lengthy process, but we usually want to end up, with a mold of the original piece anyway. But yeah, that's an advantage of 3D printing, is you can, do that.
Sure.
One easier step.
Do you feel like it helps to have a background in art for this kind of work?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only familiarity with materials. I mean, you're welding. You're using clays and epoxy putties and wire armatures and things like that. So definitely having familiarity with materials.
Yeah.
And then just 3D assembly skills of knowing how to model things and seeing a shape and being able to mirror image just the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Now pretty soon it'll be like being able to do long division on the calculator.
Exactly.
Who needs to do that? But I'm old enough to remember that when that argument started. And the calculator was still oh wow, you got a calculator.
Yep.
Calculator was still a rare, expensive thing. So I'm kind of still in the long division stage here, but I enjoy it. That's what I like doing. I like doing the actual physical, hands-on stuff.
What would you say your favorite part of this kind of work is?
I really think just the satisfaction of the finished product.
Yeah.
And the way I would explain that is, say, somebody who restores antique cars. They probably don't come out in the morning, and they love what they do.
Yeah.
They restore antique, neat thing to do. But they don't come out in the morning and say, I want to sand that fender, or you really want to, pull that transmission out. They may not mind that, but they don't get up in the morning and say, I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah. But when you're done, you're like, wow. So it's I don't want to say love-hate, but kind of a yin and yang sort of thing where a lot of the work is just work.
Oh, yeah.
You just as soon skip it. But the satisfaction, what that builds to is really exciting and really interesting. So that really, that's kind of an indirect answer to your question, but that's really my favorite part, is working towards that end.
Right.
And especially when you're doing a full skeleton, that can be a 5 or 10 year project.
Oh yeah,
and
easily.
In a matter of a short time, meaning a few weeks, the first set of casts is out. You come down here and you start assembling it.
Yeah.
And so 4 to 10 years, however long, that many years of work culminates in a very quickly, boom, it's there.
Yeah.
Like a seed sprouting. So that's really, I get a kick out of that. That's a lot of fun to get to that point in the process where you're, all that work is about the blossom.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
Cool.
There's a lot of talk about paleontologists like resurrecting extinct creatures. We're bringing them back to life by discovering them and digging them up and everything else. But like, you're actually doing the nuts and bolts of that here.
Well, and you're not biologically reconstructing, but you're physically reconstructing. Both with what someone like Gary does, and with us doing the skeletons, and so. That's really cool to just, again, to see that for the first time. And, another example would be a big Torosaurus skull we put together. The thing was complete, but it was a juvenile, so it was all found disarticulated. They'd excavated the Thornton Fire Station over near Denver.
Yeah.
And so the museum folks have been working on it and working on all these, parts and pieces.
Yeah.
And so they brought it over here, we molded it, put it together. But so they had never, they'd
never seen it assembled.
Yeah, they had spent all the time doing it, and it was really cool then to put that together and take it over there.
I'm sure the looks on their faces were amazing.
Here's what you've been working on, and so to be able to have the privilege to do that part of it's really cool.
Yeah.
Not that prep isn't cool, but it's just
it's different
another
in that way.
step in the process.
Yeah.
So that's really I think what I really get a kick out of when people say, well, you know, what's your favorite part of doing it, or what's your favorite part of the work? It's like, well, it's work, but it's that what the work leads to that's exciting.
Have you ever had a researcher burst into tears upon seeing the finished product?
Not quite, but you know,
almost.
And researchers also you've got to remember is their critics.
Yeah.
You know, they're not there to necessarily to wax and sing praises about what you've done, but to you know, make sure that what you're doing is you know, scientifically accurate. And you know, there is part of it that frankly we just don't know till we find one, and we may never find one. So that is kind of interesting and frustrating in a way, because it gives you an artistic license, and I say artistic, you base that on hopefully having some knowledge, but when it comes down to a lot of little nuances, you just you don't know for sure. And so that is frustrating in the sense that you want to know, you want what you're doing to be accurate, but you just don't know and may never know, and so everybody can say it's wrong, but you know, you can't prove that it's correct, but they can't prove you're wrong either. So it's interesting. It gets interesting. And that's really more comes to play when you're articulating full skeletons.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like Utahraptor, there's just parts of the skeleton that we just have not discovered yet. Really don't know. For instance, the lower bottom half.
Yeah, the ischium sticking back there.
We just don't know. We don't have a good idea of what that looks like. And so time will tell.
Have you ever gone back and corrected something?
Oh yeah, all the time. It's expensive, and sometimes takes a while to get those molds pulled, and then of course you've already circulated what you've done previously, and so everybody can look at that for years and years and say, you know, that's wrong. But that's part of the business. You can't go in and do rewrites immediately once the book is published.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
Gotta wait for the second edition.
I've gotten that question a lot giving tours of museums and stuff, and they're like, you know, I point out something that we now know is incorrect, and people ask, well, why don't they go in and fix it? It's like, well, we usually don't have the budget for that kind of thing.
Yeah, well,
so,
and pulling, so it'd be like pulling all your first edition copies of your book out of all the libraries. It's just impractical and not going to happen. So, but you know, if you're in an academic intellectual pursuit, you know, you're a scientist writing things, or reconstructing, you need to accept that, you know, you're wrong, and you need to, you know, not get too bent out of shape about it.
Definitely.
You make your best effort, and you do your...
We've got limited information, so you can never be 100% correct about really anything. But, you know, you be as, you know, take the imperfections, make them as small as you can, basically, through hard work and attention to detail and everything else. And, you know, art is kind of like that, too, in some ways, I guess. But
and one thing that's interesting about the skeletons, that we have gotten a few... thing, like, you know, this for instance, where we know there's no mystery what the upper skull looks like. And in a way, so the contradiction there is that's wonderful. You're so excited about getting this complete specimen, but in a way, as a reconstructor, it's boring because there's nothing. You don't.
You're a stenographer.
There's no research. There's no. Okay, I just gotta make another horn that looks like the left side. And so that's kind of it is kind of a weird situation when you get a really nice piece.
That's funny.
Don't get me wrong. I don't ever turn away a really nice piece. So.
Can we take a look at is this Teratophonius over here?
Yeah, so you can swing around here. Another grand staircase piece.
Look at that. And
again, this was pretty typical where, you know, we add numerous elements, but they're all, nothing's articulated. You know, the maxilla is separated, the nasal is separated, the quadrate, et cetera, and so we, you know, gone in and done our best attempt at a reconstruction based on looking at other related tyrannosaurs, and I think it's probably reasonably accurate. Tyrannosaurid skulls don't seem to vary a lot. You know, some are a little more bulbous in the rear, some a little more pointy. You know, there are some strange tyrannosaurs like Alioramus, but you know, this, I don't think there's a huge amount of guesswork in a skull like this. I mean, you got a lot of relatives of this animal, so you have with the material we do have and comparing it to what's known, it's a pretty, I think, a fairly straightforward reconstruction.
Right. Beautiful. That's funny. Just looking at the shelf, there's so many other things that I recognize. Like, looks like you've an ornithomimosaur right there.
Yeah.
That's Gallimimus. Very cool. Wow. Yeah. And is that Ceratosaurus right there?
No, our reconstructed Utahraptor.
Oh, okay.
Which that's another area of the animal that we, we have a brain case and some maxilla pieces and some other chunks, but really need to find out more about the skull. Yeah. So there's some key parts of that reconstruction that I really like to see more light shed on that. Yeah.
And then is that a Dinocephalian up there? Who is that?
Yeah. You asked me too fast. It's from the Russian dinosaurs exhibit. It's I keep wanting to say Estemenasuchus, but that's not.
That's the guy with the big antlery things. I think.
But that
Tapanocephalus or something like that. I don't know my Dinocephalians
I
well
don't
either.
That's why it was a trade years ago, and it's sitting up there, and I should know. I know all the other skulls up there.
And I think Jim was saying that's Alterinus, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Beautiful. Then, that's such a cool piece.
Yeah, and then saber cats, Dinocrocuta, Macaritas, a Platycarpus back there.
Yeah, the mosasaur, very cool.
Sticking out.
Yeah. Just, I don't know, this is a wondrous place, Rob. This is so cool.
Yeah, we keep collecting more and more pieces.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Oh, and I think I know that species too.
Yeah. A few of those around.
Very, very cool. Holy cow. And is it moss chops? Somebody was saying moss chops in the chat for the Dinocephalian. I don't know if it is. It doesn't look like moss chops to me.
Without getting the Russian dinosaurs, to have it on the shelf, and I should know that.
If we get Fisher in here, he'd be able to tell us. But
somebody asked me the name of that the other day, and I'd forgotten what that is. And I was just at the American Museum a couple of weeks ago and saw a fossil of that on display, and I've forgotten the name again. So it's a weird, strange name. It's Australian.
The guy right above the door?
Yeah, it's a weird Australian.
Like a Diprotodon or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Very cool.
Maybe one of the folks watching would know what that is as well.
Nice. Yeah. Now, we've got a great question from the Mayor of Space. Yeah. How many times can you use a mold before you have to make a new one?
Very good question. And that really varies depending on what type of piece it is. Yeah. So there's two things that destroy a mold.
Let me move over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Here, sorry. That's
number
better.
One, the first thing is physically pulling on something.
Gotcha. You stretch it out,
And each time I'm pulling one of these, I'm pulling really hard. And then you've got something, just let's say, for instance, it's just a flat object where there's no pulling. I mean, literally, there's just no contour to this. You can just pop it right open.
Sure. So that one might last a ton of different iterations.
So in a nutshell, using a good quality silicone and a fast set resin, you might get 75 to 100 pulls, depending on whether you mold release the mold or not. There's factors that you can go back and forth to get more life. So maybe 75 to 100. More complicated pieces, you may only get half a dozen just because of the the stress. If the mold's misdesigned a little bit and you're pulling a little bit harder than you anticipated, that begins tearing, and you may start getting chunks, and you can maybe patch those together successfully a few times, but really you're dealing with something that's a little tough on the rubber. So you're not really getting so much a chemical with this. You're just asking a question about chemical attack on the rubber itself, and that's about 75 to 100. But this is really a different thing. The mold rubber may be physically the surface in good condition. You just had to pull and pull to get several copies, and it's starting to really get micro tears and little chunks tearing and that sort of thing. So it may be as few as a half dozen to 12 on something more complicated. So you try and design your pieces. You take a piece like this, and you try and design it so that your mold doesn't have to undergo that. So for instance, you mold this in units. Maybe you've got the left half, the right half, the center portion, maybe the brain case and another mold. So maybe 5 or 6 units that's much quicker to pop that together
Sure.
than to have to replace this mold in a few months or a year or whatever the case may be. So you try and design around that, but sometimes you just can't. You have sometimes you have pieces that are incredibly complex, or maybe the matrix is really rough, and basically each time you're pulling it, it's grading across this really sharp matrix, and things like that will break down pieces. Good example would be like molding a big megalodon, big shark tooth.
With the serrations on it?
Yeah, the serrates will start doing what they do. They're still sharp enough, and they'll each time you pull that, serrates start cutting the rubber wall, and within a few pulls, that really nice, detail on the serrates is disappearing. So it's getting all cut up. So it's a complicated question about how long the mold lasts, and I get asked that a lot, and that's the shortest answer I can make for how long they'll last.
How much have the materials changed since you got started with this in the 90s? Like, have they improved a lot? You get a lot more pulls out of the molds? That kind of thing?
There have been a few rubbers that have come along that are easier to work with, and now 3D printing's becoming a bigger thing. And
do you do any of that?
I don't do a lot. I mean, I was already invested in doing this, and when I have done 3D printing, it seems like I have enough experience. Some of the folks that work for me, quick at modeling and
for sure.
Like that. And so some of the things that I have 3D printed, the computer time, scanning time.
It adds up.
Yeah, and it's like it took 10 hours to do that. It took 10 hours to do it by hand, or 10 plus the molding time. It didn't equal out to be a lot. So there, in some sense, if your 3D prints, and that's the other thing, is most of the 3D prints I see are not real. They're not this quality. I mean, the
scans are not quite as, and you can see the striations, and you can see the print lines easily.
And I have seen a few. Apparently, they are coming out now with some that are like you can't see that anymore.
And I finished mine with like smoothing compounds, so it gets rid of the print lines. But you're also losing detail.
Yeah, exactly. You're smoothing it down. And it's that sharp detail, that little micro detail that catches all the color. And so when I got into this, I want pieces that that look real. I want to hold them in my hand, not say, that's a cat. I want it to, somebody to come up to, oh, is that real? That's a compliment. Not that you're trying to trick anybody, but
you want it to look as authentic as possible, though. That's the whole point.
If you make the assumption that you got a 3D print that was as good as a cast, and for most of what I see, it isn't quite there yet. At least on a broad scale.
You're definitely right about that.
The technology is there, but the economics don't allow it to. If you go to printhub.com or whatever, what you're getting back is not going to be this quality. So the stuff that we have done, it seems to almost equal out time-wise. If you have more computer people than sculptors, that's probably a great option. The other thing is, if you're not real picky about maybe you want a skeleton that's going to be viewed from 6 or 8 feet away, no problem. It's a good way to go. And so it does have real advantages, but it kind of depends on what your philosophy is and where you're at on it. But I do think it's going to be, it's the future. It's going to become a bigger and bigger part of this. The quality will improve, the price will come down, and so at some point people won't probably mold and cast as much. But for me, my age, the years I've been doing it, it's a good method to stick with.
This is the gold standard, and like I said, you're one of the best in the world.
Well, thank you.
That's well known. So
but the future is in the 3D printing.
Going in the opposite direction with that, into the past, I see you've got a Diplodocus skull up there. And I just read that book about all of the cast Diplodocus skeletons that Carnegie sent around the world and everything. How much has molding and casting changed since then until today? Like, they didn't have silicone or anything like that back then.
So, I've scratched my head about how a lot of molding and casting was done back then, because I read... the first thing that intrigued me about it was an archaeologist called Maudsley, or archaeologist. Anyway, he went to the Yucatan, and I think around sometime in the 19th century. I think it was mid to late 19th century. Anyway, he did some big monographs on Mayan cities down there. But anyway, some of the incredibly ornate stela and 3D things, they did molds of. And I'm sketching, it's like, how did they do a mold? I know they didn't have, and so I'm guessing the only way you could do that, and I still don't know, is packing bags of plaster through the jungle and hoping it doesn't get rained on. So you don't have you don't have plastic bags, and so somehow gets you the oilcloth or something, and making just multi-piece molds with no undercut. So that technology's there. I mean, molding's been around for centuries. But you didn't have, the difference is you didn't have flexible materials.
Right.
Now with the advent of rubbers, we had flexible materials.
So you can reuse those.
That's what really revolutionized mold making. Is the ability to, go around pieces, around undercuts. Otherwise, a 2-piece mold becomes maybe a 10-piece mold.
Right.
And so to your point, or to your question, I'm guessing at that point, I mean, latex probably would have been your first rubber on the market, as you know. We didn't have good synthetic rubbers until early part of the 20th century. And so you probably are dealing with latex, which is a good material. And then plaster. You don't have plastic compounds appearing until after World War II, and I don't.
Oh, Jim's trying to be let in.
Okay, I don't know what else. What else you're going to use besides plaster? Maybe you had some latex then, or plaster molds. Right. Using a plaster on plaster and using a lot of a release agent. And so Just on one last note on that. So if you go to BYU, they have a very historic cast there, and you should check it out. You might walk in and say, "Oh, that's really incredible," because it's Ward Scientific. Early casting company, and had an entire catalog they were the first people to start, trying to commercially market casts, and this would have been. I think late 1800s, turn of the century, somewhere like that. But anyway, all these are gone. The stuff they produced was all in plaster. That's all they had. And the the definition's not great because the molds weren't great. It was what they had at the time. But they're all gone. And so in BYU, they have a sloth that's award scientific. And I think Ohio State's museum has another one. So there's a few left.
Burton Field House.
Okay. But they're almost.
I've seen that one then.
They're very rare. They're almost all gone. People look at it, that's a piece of junk. But they're really important pieces in the history of paleontology, molding, and casting. It would be like getting rid of Waterhouse Hawkins sculptures. These aren't accurate. Let's get rid of those. But for molder and caster, those pieces are really cool to see those. But
very cool.
If you're at the Earth Science Museum at BYU, check it out.
Nice.
Unless they took it off display. I know it was there last year.
I think it's there. You got a whole new exhibit now.
Nice.
Really done it.
And
you went there, they made it paper mache out of old dollars. Money. Threaded money, paper mache. So it's $1 million. You went in there. It's a joke. But I think they bought it. Woolworths? Was it? I forget where they bought. You said Ward's.
Ward Scientific. And I think if you go online and Google that, you'll see old but they're old black and white engravings. So these skeletons you can buy.
That's so cool.
And really cool. But Ward Scientific catalog.
And Fisher's here. Fisher, who's that Dinocephalian over there? We were trying to figure that out.
It looks like mustrops.
It does look like mustrops?
It's definitely a Tapanocephalic.
It's Russian.
Russian. South African.
No, that's from the Russian dinosaurs exhibit.
It's in that group, obviously.
It's a Tapanocephalic, I'm sure. But if it's Russian, that's not mustrops.
And I relate those,
It's not mustrops, and I can't remember the name.
Maybe it's Ulamosaurus?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Who was it?
Ulamosaurus.
Ulamosaurus?
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that critter.
And the way the dome on the head is and the shock absorbers in the skull. I presented a paper Dino Fest of how Gastonia, they were probably rivals with Headbutt. For some reason they could see forward. And they had Headbutt, and you look at the shock absorbers, the ectopterygoids, the blind joint, just like these things.
Very cool.
And these things are headbutting as well. And they're both, real stocky, little animals. It's like, boom. Certainly not running across the landscape at each other.
Very cool. How are we doing on time, Jim?
Whatever. It's up to you. But Diablo, this is another one. We're going to try.
Talking about that,
Yeah, we're trying to get a Diablo for Bryce Canyon. Yeah. It's like, I don't really get some fundraising done there. That's one thing that could occur within the park. It goes out into the middle of Mudstone, which is where that was found. So it could be something that was walking on sediments within the national park.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, that should be their signature dinosaur for Bryce Canyon. It's right there. They found it, not that far away.
Very cool.
Staircase. But yeah, we want to get one of those for Bryce Canyon in a big way. Talk about Maddie. Maddie, you got to do a fundraiser. I can't do it all.
We got another question from Flask. Thank you, Jody Fish, for reposting that. And I think I know the answer, but does Rob produce different quality molds, like, say, something for museum display versus accurate replication for research? Yeah.
The quality's the same, but it's different. I mean, we sell...
Reconstructed versus not reconstructed.
Yeah, exactly. But same silicone molds, same materials. But yeah, we do definitely sell research casts of the elements before they were restored. Yeah. And we usually, from every project, we keep those.
Nice.
And so we do have a lot of that. And we don't get a huge call for it, but every few months we get a researcher that says, "Oh, do you have casts of this or that or the other?" And so yes, we definitely
very cool.
do that.
How long can you keep the molds too before they just kind of deteriorate on their own?
What's called library life.
Okay.
It really depends on the material. So actually, ironically, a material like latex, which is seen as not cutting edge, has probably the longest, if it's well stored, it's a good quality latex, has the longest library life. And I've got latex as I did when I was first starting 30 years ago. They look about the same as they did.
Nice.
They're not, They don't appear to be any physically different.
Yeah.
Silicones, they can fall apart in a year or two depending on how they're catalyzed and things like that. The same with urethane molds. But generally, most silicone molds, the platinums will last a little longer. They'll last 10 plus years.
Okay.
But they do definitely, since it's a chemical reaction, that reaction never really stops. So they're continuing to go from a liquid to a rubber, to a harder rubber, to a harder rubber, to a disintegrating rubber. And so that, the reaction slows down after the rubber sets, but over time, what you'll see is you'll go out a few years later to pull a cast, and where the mold would pull before with no problem, then it tears.
Gotcha.
The tear strength is the first thing you see.
And once it does that, there's no way to repair it. There's no way to really lengthen life at all.
Just maybe have a little more cleanup time, and then shortly after that, it's time to just
retire it.
Yeah, you don't want to sell a cast that's made out of a bad mold. So but ironically, the latex, if it's kept out of the UV sunlight, will last the longest library life.
Yeah.
So you have chemical attack, physical stress, and then just how long the substance will last sitting on the shelf.
And you're archiving the first generation cast.
Master. We do.
Yeah.
And so people will say, well, what conditions when they ask about a skeleton, and what conditions to mold in? To me, it really is. As long as you've got a good cast, you can go back to that and replicate. And there really is no loss of detail between if you're using really good materials and you have a good cast. If I've taken pulled the first cast out of a good silicone mold, and I go back to remold that with a silicone, you're not. I mean, maybe with a high-powered microscope you could maybe see something, but the naked eye won't discern any difference in detail.
That's impressive.
Not true though with some other types of mold materials. You can visibly see that the detail starts disappearing depending on what your quality casting materials and what your quality of rubber is.
Yeah. Cool. Another question: could I swing around and show the Thyreophorans in the background? I cannot. I'm sorry about that. That's not for public viewing yet. That's an upcoming thing, but anyway, good stuff. I hope everybody's enjoying being here. For anybody who just waltzed in, since this is a live broadcast, We'll swing in and out. I'm here at Rob Gaston's workshop in Fruita, Colorado, and we're talking about molding and casting, how to reproduce the fossils of extinct critters for museum displays and for research. And this is a pretty cool opportunity, so I hope everybody realizes how awesome this is right now. This is pretty unique. So, yeah. Jim, there's a Gaston skull over there.
Yeah, there's a juvenile in there. I mean,
yeah.
Thought this was something you really should do.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. This is Jim's idea, by the way, so thank you to Papa Jim here. Yeah.
No, I just love coming to visit Rob. It's just like,
when I go to other people's workshops, I'm in here 20 hours a day, so to me it's like, whatever. Yeah. But I get it when you're not used to like going to other folks' workshops. I just love it.
Yeah.
You don't want to dig into everything.
Yep. It really is something special.
I mean, you've shown Diablo.
Oh yeah.
Obviously.
We were talking about that. Yeah.
Folks, Bryce Canyon needs one of those. Yeah. Keep it in mind. You may be hearing some begging, and we can get this moving on that one too. Scutellosauris first in line.
Yeah.
We've got to get that in front of those from St. George. No doubt.
And so for all the folks who weren't here earlier too, Rob, could you maybe talk about where they can see some of your stuff on display? Like, what are some of your flagship museums, I guess?
Most things are regional. So Utah Museum of Natural History is one.
In Salt Lake,
the Prehistoric Museum in Price. Of course, a lot of stuff in Japan. And we have stuff at other big institutions like Carnegie. And we sell to gift shops all over, too.
Nice.
People are more into the small market. We sell everywhere from Smithsonian gift shops in D.C. to Dinosaur National Monument, Moab, Salt Lake, everywhere. So we've really got a good distribution of pieces now all over the place.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's your estimate? Sorry to put you on the spot, but like number of museums that have your pieces. How many do you think? It's got to be in at least the hundreds, right?
Yeah, maybe. I say maybe because sometimes I really don't know. I mean, a lot of purchases go through middlemen, or exhibit designers. So I don't, know where everything ends up. I mean, we've had stuff go to everywhere from Saudi Arabia to Europe, and so I don't know where everything ends up. But that might be an accurate number.
Pretty cool. Is there a favorite thing that you've worked on, like something that you've seen in a museum and you're like, that elevates this even beyond what I did, seeing it on display? Maybe not anything in particular.
You mean something that we've done?
Yeah, and you're like, I'm really, really proud to see that there.
Really, I'd have to say that about our the traveling exhibits, because when I'm taking a single skeleton, doesn't change much. The lighting may be nice, the environment's nice, all that looks a hell of a lot better in a museum than in my shop, which is it's a workshop. But what I love to see is when we put the traveling exhibit together, you're putting a whole body of work together. And so we don't get, as you see the size of the shop, we don't get to see it assembled as a coherent, telling a story and a coherent body of work, and we only get to see that when it goes into a nice clean gallery space. Then it's like, wow, that's really neat. and so that would really be, I think, something where I really love. I just look forward to, okay, we got all this stuff. It goes from one piece at a time into a crate, and then we don't see it all together. And they're also nervous. You're like, well, I hope this all looks like we think it's going to look. I hope it fits in the spaces that we, and so you really, it is kind of, you're not seeing it till the folks that have purchased it are seeing it. So that's exciting, but also a little bit
nerve-wracking, I'd imagine. Yeah. And so again, for anybody who just waltzed into the chat recently, you can see a lot of this stuff, including this giant Sarcosuchus back here. You'll see that finished at the museum in Atlanta, the Fernbank Museum, in October through January. So if you're anywhere near that part of the country, make sure you check out this exhibit. It is going to be incredible. I've got to figure out how I can get myself over there. Hey,
set up a venue in the Bay Area for a special exhibit of it. To help push some of that along. Say, look how successful this is.
That would be really
Find
cool,
a
actually.
space.
Shoot, yeah. So, are you looking for other venues for this?
Oh
after
yeah.
Georgia?
No, I want to share this with people, get it out there.
Yeah.
So, this will be the second venue. It opened at Carnegie, and this will be the second venue. And so we're hoping to get it out there, get it moving, and it's really kind of coming together with adding the crocodiles and a lot of new animals and the early ankylosaur ancestors and things like that. It's really adding a lot of key pieces that we didn't have the first go around. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Awesome. Well, shoot, I should ask you how you're doing on time. I can definitely wrap this up pretty soon if you've got stuff to do. I know this is a busy workspace here.
Whatever you feel.
It would be kind of cool. We didn't get to look at that little room to the left when you walk in by the Scutellosaurus. Okay. Is there anything in there that you think would be neat to see?
There's a coffee maybe?
It's in some pieces, but that.
Where is that from?
Wyoming. I got it from Brock, and I think it's from one of the quarries. That may have been the quarry that those folks were leasing up there.
What's up, Chet?
The old bone cabin area.
That was Tegan from yesterday. If you don't remember.
Western Paleo leasing that for a while.
Oh yeah.
I think Brock may have got it in there. I'm not sure, but I think it came from there. I don't know, has that been renamed? I know it was, I referred to Joniopolis, but...
Yeah, it's not Joniopolis, it might be Eastern Manasukas or something.
Wow.
John Foster would probably be the guy to query on that.
Okay, I'll have that. Yeah. There's Elisa. Did she go? I'm going to get her to show you her Estimatosuchus here.
I know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
I got a picture of her with that.
Let me...
where is she? You gotta come over here,
Yeah, we'd love to see it, There's our Scutellosaurus again, if anybody missed that from earlier in the broadcast. One of the
earliest armored dinosaur known.
Yeah. Pretty
the base
special.
of Thyreophora.
Yeah. Awesome. Again, we're going to try and get one of these for the St. George Museum. But,
So unfortunately the skull's packed away, but this is a really good example of how you can see something. What we were talking about, taking a skull and fleshing it out. But that's Estimatosuchus from the Russian dinosaurs exhibit that Elisa sculpted. She can tell you about it.
This is beautiful, Elisa. Holy cow.
Thank you. This is my life sculpture was, oh my goodness, just looking for all that references to imagine how this animal really looks like. But it's so tough because it's not a mammal, it's kind of reptile, it's kind of hippopotamus or some combination of
when we were talking earlier about
teeth then
look at those teeth.
This little
You've really captured it really well. It's not quite a mammal, it's not a reptile, it's just something unusual. And
talking earlier about reconstructions and really not knowing what, because this has no direct living ancestors, and so as Elisa said, it's really hard to know what to reference and how to make it look.
Wow. With the eyes and the colors and the horns and this in here, making all the texture and
it also reminds me of a warthog in an interesting way, but more, I don't know. You've really captured something really special about it. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Nice work.
It was a lot of work.
I can imagine.
But, yes, with the guide of Rob, of course.
All I can say is I don't know. Here's some pictures you might look at.
But no,
that's
to guidance and
out of my expertise.
So you clearly have a strong background in art.
I do. Yes, I did. I did my first studies. I did in the University Autonomous of Guadalajara, Mexico. Okay. And then I've been working on my own things, and then later I renew all my studies here in the university, here in Mesa State University, and graduate and work with Rob and more. In the sculpture and learning every day, learning all science about this animal. is amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
It's amazing. And putting this side by side with a skull, with a fossil, with a real fossil, is amazing.
It really brings it to life for people.
Yes, bring it together. Then, it's going to practice a lot of observation and those, imagine those, wow, how big this can be.
Very,
but
very cool.
I love this every day, every time. This is a challenge. It's a different thing. This is our peels for the part of the reconstruction, the part we extended from the Sarcosuchus. Yeah. And these are some peels I'm going to test here, the colors.
Nice.
Before I don't want to mess up over there. Yeah. And then those peeling and do some testing.
Very nice.
Yeah, all of this has so many
steps.
So many steps. Testing materials, testing colors. You're dealing with chemistry, so you think, oh, we can mix this, that'll work. It's like, no, you better try it. And sometimes you think, no, I don't really need to test that. It should work, and it doesn't. And other things you say, who knows, and you do it. And so there's just so many steps involved in all of this because you invest a lot of hours, so you need to know your materials are going to be
definitely,
reliable.
Yeah. Very cool.
And with rubbers and plastics, that's sometimes you don't know what you get till you start testing them. And
is this crocodilian right here? Who is this guy?
Yeah, I think it was formerly known as Goniophilus. But it may have been
it's been renamed.
So it's a Jurassic croc.
Oh,
and so
beautiful.
This has a pretty full body of armor, both ventrally and dorsally, and so we're gonna include this in the armor show.
Very nice.
And
there?
No, close enough.
Close enough to hold it.
Yeah. That is a pretty strong joint if it can support that whole thing.
It's a
nice weld.
Yeah, it's not gonna break. And so that animal will be
on the reconstruction.
Yeah.
So this animal will be suspended in a kind of a faux water with a Dryosaurus on a log here.
Beautiful baby Dryosaurus.
And then that guy kind of underneath coming up from underwater.
Very cool.
Hard to visualize now, but I think it's going to be a neat display.
That's so cool. The baby Dryosaurus. Dryosaurus is my favorite dinosaur when I was a kid, believe it or not.
This is from down near Uravan. It was one that Rod Sheets worked on years ago. And helped me with the reconstruction.
Very cool. Now, SVP this year is going to be in Minneapolis. Yeah. And I presume that the reception is going to be held in the Minnesota Science Center Museum.
I think they have one of these in there.
Yeah? From you?
No, another specimen. Actually, I think one of the publications that we're referring to, is the specimen in Minnesota.
Is any of your stuff at that museum?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. That's kind of surprising, actually. Yeah.
When you're getting
stuff
old,
is so widespread.
Been in business 30 years sometimes. I forgot I did that.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Very cool. And it looks like you've got a fleshed out ankylosaur skull up there too.
Yeah. So that's a Cainocephalus.
Awesome, from Utah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's one that I did, and I that was part of a bizarre headgear show as well as Elise's Estimenosuchus that we do, and so that was a same deal. Laid the clay over the skull. And,
very cool. Yeah.
But that's the original. So the originals you usually just end up throwing away.
Here, can I bring the camera closer?
Yeah.
And
so
make sure I go under this very carefully.
That's original, both of them. And so all you're after is a mold. You use clay, soft materials, impermanent things. And so you're just trying, you're just trying to get a good mold. The original gets thrown away, and then your durable copy will be your cast.
Very cool.
And then from that, you can do anything from more resins to bronzes to whatever you want to do.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. There's everywhere I look. There's just something fascinating that I want to ask questions about.
It's full in here.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whose scapula is that right there with the bite marks on it?
I think that's actually an ischium.
Oh, it's an ischium.
Yeah,
oh,
and that's from a Patasaurus, and that's one of the best bite marks I've seen. A Mygat specimen.
Yeah.
And so this has a special place in my heart because this was the first big, I had been molding little teeth when I started. Been molding little teeth and claws, and I took this. And I was wondering, is it even possible to make a mold of something that big? And I was working in a little room in my basement. And so this was the first mold I made of a big object, and I was like, wow, I did it. And so that was really a challenge at the time because, now it's like, it's just routine, but back then that was, I just learned to make molds, and that was a challenge to mold something that was, 4 feet long.
Right.
But still one of the best set of teeth marks I've ever seen.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah.
It's like somebody took a garden rake to it.
Look at that, yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, Mygat produces some really good scavenged material.
Very, very cool.
Complete with cobwebs.
Oh, this is awesome. This has been such a privilege, Rob. Thank you so much for this tour.
Yeah, thank you for your interest.
And
folks enjoyed it.
Again, GastonDesign.com. Check out the website. And if you're anywhere near Atlanta, Georgia, this fall into the early winter, make sure that you check out the traveling exhibit there. We have a title for the exhibit?
Animal Armor.
Animal Armor. Yeah. Very, very cool. At the Fernbank Museum.
Yep.
I'm going to see if I can get out there because that is going to be really, really cool. As Jim was saying, like the largest collection of armored dinosaurs on display anywhere in the world, that's going to be pretty stellar. Who knows? Maybe I could do a live stream from there. We'll see. But again, thank you, Rob, so much. This has been amazing.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, let me go outside and I'll wrap up the stream. And man, very, very cool.
Oh, I see.
Look at that stegosaur plate. Holy cow.
These are things I dug up in 87.
Really?
Old stegosaur.
Wow.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right on the hips.
And look at those like blood vessel grooves. Probably for
compare
keratin.
that to apex. Plates are totally different.
Interesting.
And this is one from heading down to the shoulders.
So this would be like from the hips or that area, right?
Yeah, this right on the hips. This is getting down more of the shoulder.
Yeah.
You see they start developing the split base. There, and they get real split and smaller as you get into the neck.
Very cool.
But I remember digging both of these up.
Yeah.
That one, the jacket was probably 600 pounds.
Wow.
Huge jacket. We had a helicopter to get them out. But that jacket, preserved this intact. Was
well,
huge.
that is the beauty.
Can we flip it without destroying it?
Oh my goodness. Well, this is the beauty of the resins and to make it, it's heavy, but not that heavy that we can
But you picture that covered with horn.
Yeah.
The horn coming out, like that much further.
Oh.
Yeah.
And, what color, because horn can take a lot of shades.
Like a toucan's bill or something, maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Could have been really garish.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That's just gorgeous.
But very different than that Ajax or Apex.
Yeah.
The plates look totally different shaped.
Very cool.
I think that's a different taxa.
Well, shoot, try to go outside to end the stream. We just run into more and more cool things here.
Just look at these half-done. There's a beautiful jugal here.
Go check out the bathroom.
In the mold.
It's actually really nice.
But the jugal horn, but in the mold.
Is it for Appendiceratops here?
Yeah.
Very cool.
So this
is the clay right here that you put so that you can pour the latex over the top and make the mold.
And the other side will those holes, they go together nice and tight.
Very nice. Super cool. Wow. Awesome. Shoot. Very, very cool. Well, let me go ahead and wrap this up.
You can walk around the yard a little bit.
Yeah. See how much juice I still got in the battery before the thing dies. But holy cow, what a magical place. How lucky are we to be able to see that? Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. I hope you appreciated just how special this was, everybody. Holy cow. Gaston Design Studios. Well, I need to wrap this up because we've got some stuff that we got to do before we go back to the quarry. We're going to continue our excavation tomorrow. We just had kind of a half day today. Yeah, we'll be digging up more of our new iguanodontian dinosaur tomorrow, so tune in for that, especially if you're new to the channel as of this stream. We're going to be digging up dinosaurs for the next week, and you're welcome to follow along and watch our progress live on stream. So with that being said, let's see who else is here on Twitch right now. Maybe somebody's doing some science or something? Let's see. And we can raid into them before we end the stream. There we go. Who else have we got? Let's see. There's Hoot House. There's Kanara. Science Streams. Let's go raid Rhacodactylus. Excellent. Actually, we'll raid Rhacodactylus another time. It looks like Casey Snowart is doing a dinosaur sculpt right now, and that is very, very relevant. But follow Rhacodactylus if you're not yet doing so. And let's go ahead and get into here. There we go. Raid Casey Snowart. Brilliant. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today. And again, go to gastondesigns.com, gastondesign.com. Let's get another link going in the chat. And make sure that you go visit that traveling exhibit when you get the chance. If you're anywhere near Atlanta, Georgia this fall, you are not going to want to miss that. I got to see if I can get a cheap flight out there. Holy cow. But anyway, hope to see everybody again tomorrow live from the quarry where we continue our dinosaur excavation. Until then, everybody, you take care of yourselves. Let's go say hello to Casey Snowart. All right. Bye-bye.